Madonas of the Aegean Sea, some majestic and others humble and quiet, built into the rocks, in the caves in rough heights, on their walls valuable treasures, and in all their images hopes of thousands of faithful. There is no island in the Aegean Sea which does not have a church dedicated to the Virgin Mary, as her figure occupies a special place in the consciousness of the Greeks as the Mother of God. Madonas of the Aegean Sea. All of them have miracles to narrate. Panagia Ekatodapiliani, also known as the Church of the Hundred Doors. The largest and oldest Christian church in Greece, with memories from Hagia Sophia. It is the indelible imprint of the glory of Byzantium in the Aegean, the Church of the Hundred Doors of Paros. Panagia Ekatodapiliani is the second icon in the Cyclades after the sacred image of Our Lady of Tinos, which people visit to venerate. A stunning building following the one of Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, which was built to praise God's wisdom. It has been built after an oath of St. Helen, who, while going to Jerusalem, was brought by the storm to the island of Paros. The church, which was founded on ancient ruins, dominates, and its existence affects initially the residents' lives, and in subsequent centuries the lives of pilgrims and visitors. Paros, the third largest island of the Cyclades, which is now a popular holiday destination, has been inhabited since the 4th millennium BC. It has been one of the most important centers of the Cycladic civilization. It is also one of the few islands in the Aegean where the Minoan civilization was developed, and the first inhabitants were settlers from Crete. That is why the town was called Minos, in honor of the king of the Minoan state. Around the 1st–2nd century AD, the locals, although still under the Roman occupation, converted to Christianity. In the 1st century, Paros, as were almost all the Cyclades, was used by the state of Rome as a place of exile, and the ancient religion of idols prevails. Christianization starts in the late 1st century, while when 3 centuries later the island passed to the sovereignty of the Byzantine Empire, idolatry has already ended. On the ruins of ancient pagan temples, Christian churches and temples are erected. The Ekatodapiliani of Paros is thought to be the intermediate link between the ancient and modern Greek history regarding architecture and building structure. This can be seen through observing the surviving remains separately. Katapoliani of Paros has been built on an ancient building which has mosaics too. It is probably the gymnasium of the ancient city. So we have the ancient world, its legacy, together with the modern period starting with Christianity. It is well known to all that a site is sanctified if it has been sacred, a place of pilgrimage, and it continued through Christianity to constitute a similar place of worship. That is, both in antiquity and in the period of Christianity, we see the same role of a particular place. The Church of Our Lady of the Hundred looks like a monastery today, surrounded by a courtyard which has a circumference of 252 and a height of 8.5 meters. In 3 sides of the courtyard there are cells that have been built or reconstructed in different seasons. In 1959, academician and professor Anastasios Orlandos started restoring the church in its Justinian form, and 7 years later gave it to the worship of believers and the study of visitors and researchers. Eventually, with the various modifications and additions to the complex of Ekatolopiliani, it became a building of mixed architecture, with early Christian and also with Byzantine architectural elements which were added from time to time, and which are an ideal case study, taking into consideration that early Christians selected sites of ancient temples with structural components of which they manufactured their own temples. The complex of Ekatolopiliani also contains marble parts of antiquity, thereby revealing a continuity from that time until today. We are at the sacred pilgrimage of Panagia Ekatolopiliani, the holiest spot, we would say, of Paros and beyond. According to tradition, the building is the result of St. Helen's oath. In 326, while St. Helen was going to Jerusalem, it seems that a storm brought the royal ship here at the port of Parikia. The saint disembarked, was found in a small chapel, still in existence today, which was then honored in honor of Our Lady, and there she prayed to Jesus Christ to find the Holy Cross, and then she promised to build here a magnificent temple to the Holy Theotokos, bearer of God. Another tradition says that St. Helen herself did not live to make the promise come true, but instructed her son, the first Christian emperor, to carry out her oath. The first building of Constantine the Great was destroyed probably by fire. So we come to the 6th century during the reign of Emperor Justinian, 527-565, who in the context of the reorganization of the empire had intended to build and renovate important sacred places, and one of them was the shrine of Our Lady Ekatolopiliani, which he renovated probably, including the foundations, and it is the form that we see today, the Justinian form. Surveys conducted by the late academician and professor Anastasios Orlandos showed that traditions that the church belonged to Saints Constantine and Helen are right. Well, masons were sent from Constantinople, who also built this imperial temple, except that initially there was a wooden roof, which in the 6th century was totally destroyed by fire, and the Emperor Justinian installed the domes we see today with limestone. Thus, the final order of the church is a 3-aisled cruciform basilica with a dome. Today, the visitor, once they have passed the iron door of the building complex of Ekatolopiliani, sees the facade of the church, which impresses with its archaic style and great trilobite gate. Over the years, the church has been damaged, which resulted in the restoration of its original form. Thus, in 1959, the professor and archaeologist Anastasios Orlandos undertook the restoration of the temple, removed all additions, and gave the church the image that it had during the 6th century, just as we see it today. During the restoration, 2 6-winged cherubims, which date back to the 6th century, were found in 2 spherical triangles beneath the dome, similar to those found in Hagia Sophia in Constantinople. Furthermore, 4 columns and a mosaic with labors of Hercules were found under the floor. This means that the Church of the Virgin was built on an ancient gymnasium, dated to 300 BC, where the youth of Paros exercised. The temple, in its original form, was made up of 4 columns, which are between the icons, the architrave, with the sculptural decoration of the grapevine at the top, and the parapets at the bottom. Impression from the entrance to the temple is staggering. The size, the simplicity, the inner unity, and the archaic style dominate. Inside the church, there are colonnades in the north, western and southern part and pessary section, shields at the top part in the mezzanine. In the oldest written text about the temple, Nikitas Magistros, Simeon Metaphrastes, during the empire of Leo the Wise, impressed, mentions the marbles with which the walls of the church are covered, and underlines the fact that the craftsman has thinned the marble so finely that one would think that the walls were coated with off-white fabrics. And the sheen of marble has so much glow superior to the glow of pearls. Standing in the middle of the temple, in front of us, there is the iconostasis, that is, the screen that separates the nave from the sanctuary. During the 17 centuries that the temple has existed, there have been recorded many offerings and miracles. My experience in 20 years of ministry here in this place can provide many examples of people who found response and comfort beneath the umbrella of obligation and the Virgin Mary and her miraculous icon. I will very briefly refer to 2 cases. One is that in 1994, that is 20 years ago. A young person came here to make a request. Indeed, the request was made for a person who was away. I asked him why he had come here, and he said, "Father, I have a friend in Cyprus who is ill, and I want to ask the Virgin Mary to heal him." So, in a dream, I saw a place with an old building and an icon, and the name Ekatotopiliani below. We searched using the means of that time, there was no internet then, to find out where this place was. And we discovered that the Ekatotopiliani is in Paros. Then I decided to come here myself. Then he left. After some time, about 6 months if I remember correctly, 2 children came again. I did not recognize the person who had come before, the person who I told you about, and another guy who was quite thin, and made another request to Mary. They also had an obligation to the icon. I ask, "Who are you?" "Father," he tells me, "don't you remember me? I came here 6 months ago for a friend who had a disease problem. It was cancer, and asked you to make a request for my friend. Here is my friend who is now well, and we came here together to thank the Virgin Mary." This miracle has never left my mind. The early Christian temple of Ekatotopiliani is dedicated to the Assumption of Mary, and devout Christians from all over the world gather there on the 15th of August to pay their respects to the icon of the Virgin of the Ekatotopiliani, 17th century, and to participate in the festivities. In the temple there are 2 important monuments. The first is the ciborium, the canopy which houses the altar, dating to the 6th century. Imitates the ark, symbolizing the domes covering the graves of the early Christians. The ciborium, unique in style throughout the Christian world, is supported by 4 columns with Corinthian capitals of exquisite art. As soon as we saw the canopy, we were surprised by its beauty, notes Nikitas Magistros, Simeon Metaphrastes. because it didn't seem to be carved of marble, nor did it seem chiseled by iron tools, but it seemed to be molded to be like curdled milk. In the apse of the sanctuary, there is the second monument, a synthronon, which contains 8 semicircular homocentric rows of seats, and at the top is the tribune of the high priest, which is made of marble. There are also 2 marble tribunes on the right and on the left, lower and simpler ones, which are for the archbishop's assistants, because the service of the Divine Liturgy was held on the synthronon, celebrated in the early Christian years. The high priest, his assistants, and the priests all climbed up, and as the iconostasis had originally no icons, the congregation watched everything that was going on from the altar. Beneath the altar, holy water has gushed since the 9th century. Inside the church of Ekatotopiliani, there are a total of 7 chapels. At the front of the north side, there is the chapel of St. Nicholas, which was considered to be the first temple of the church. Behind it, the holy Theoktisi, and on the other side, St. Theodosia and St. Theoktisi's cell. On the south side, there is the church of St. Anargiri, of St. Philippe, behind the baptistry, and on the outer side of St. Demetrius. The chapel of St. Nicholas, where we are, dates back to the 4th century, which is considered to be the first church where St. Helen stopped to pray to find the Holy Cross and vowed to build a bigger temple in her honor. Here there are 4 columns of the Hellenistic and Archaic era. Originally, the temple was dedicated to the Virgin Mary, a retrospective basilica with a wooden roof. It remained so until Justinian's time, when the wooden roof was replaced with yellowish and green limestone and domes. St. Nicholas has a particularity as to the style. Up to the mezzanine it is a respective basilica, and from there on a cruciform domed basilica. On the north wall of the church, there is the small chapel of St. Theoktisi. On the south side of the great temple lies the ancient baptistry of the 4th century, the oldest and best preserved baptistry throughout the Orthodox East. It is a basilica with a dome and a narthex which communicates with the main temple. It consists of 3 parts. On the entrance, the first part is the narthex, the hall of congregation, where they stood in the middle of the photistirio, where illumination takes place, at the front of which there is a cruciform font, the holiest of all holies. The cross-shaped baptismal font proves that the baptized participates in the crucifixion of Christ. The entrance from the west arm and the exit to the east, suggesting that he leaves the world of sin, entering a new world of light. The round marble in the middle of the baptistry is called the Holy Island. There was a podium where the priest who performed the baptism stood. After the baptism, the newly illuminated Neophotisi entered the main temple and received communion. After baptism, the anointing dominated, clothing of illumination with white clothes, the entrance to the temple and the Holy Communion. All this happened in the first Christian centuries until the time of Justinian, when infant baptism took hold. The atrium of the church was also built in the 4th century. There was the expiation container, where the faithful symbolically washed their hands before entering the temple. Right and left, there are 5 graves of noble families of Paros. The Temple of the 100 Gates has been tested since its Justinian form until today, with many disasters and looting. The biggest disaster being the earthquakes in 1773, when the northern and western dome and part of the dome collapsed. The temple has 2 names, called Katapoliani because it overlooks the city, that is, it is located towards the ancient city. But it is also called Ekatotopiliani, in imitation of Thebes of 100 gates in Egypt, to declare the magnificence of the temple. Several views of Greek and foreign historians and archaeologists have been expressed about the church's name. The name Katapoliani is associated with the location of the church, which is built towards the city, that is, towards the ancient city. Of particular importance is the fact that the name Katapoliani is also found in other churches of the Virgin, such as Apeiranthos, in Naxos and Tinos. In the 17th century, however, the name Ekatodopiliani was connected by scholars of the time with the tradition of 100 gates. According to tradition, the church has 100 gates, of which only 99 have been found so far. When the 100th is found, Greece will get Constantinople back. Thus, this is a tradition intended to strengthen the morale of the Greeks. By saying 100 gates, all openings of the church are probably included: doors, windows, and arches. The lore of the 99 doors, said throughout the Turkish occupation, expressed the moral resistance of Paros. In this respect, the second name, Ekatodopiliani, is directly linked to the history of the beauteous monument of the Byzantine Empire, Hagia Sophia. Since, for over 1,000 years, Ekatodopiliani has been connected with the life and activity of important people of the Byzantium. The Ekatodopiliani, a Saint Helen's oath. It resembles the glorious creation of Byzantine church architecture, the symbol of Istanbul during both the Byzantine and the Ottoman period, the Holy Hagia Sophia. Top holy site for the entire Christian world. Magnificent and imposing, the temple is a jewel of Paros and the Cyclades. Of the Aegean Sea take you to sacred places, to lands where the grace of the Virgin Mary heals the visitor, to islands of 1,000 miracles.